AAA this morning predicts the number of people flying for Thanksgiving will climb to 3.6 million. But that's not the only reason you may discover that the planes are feeling a little more cramped these days. Kris Van Cleave is at the Reagan National Airport, that's outside of Washington, with a battle for the space and the sky. Kris, good morning.
Good morning. The TSA checkpoints at airports across the country are busy, but when people get on board the aircraft, they might feel a little bit more crowded, and it's not your imagination. The airlines have worked to squeeze in extra rows of seats, and what that means is over time, the average space between those rows has fallen from about 35 inches here, on average, down about 4 inches, and in some cases has shrunk by as much as 6 inches, giving you about this much space when you fly.
This engine fire on a British Airways 777 caused an emergency evacuation. The FAA requires it happen in 90 seconds or less, even if half of the exits are blocked. Beyond that, the agency does not set limits on how close rows of seats can be, but much of its own research is done with seats 31 inches apart. That's the spacing for several of the country's biggest carriers. While JetBlue, Southwest, and Virgin America offer the most space between rows, Allegiant, Frontier, and Spirit offer the least, with as little as just 28 inches of space and seats that don't even recline. The amount of room you actually have to sit on, the width of your seat, may have shrunk down to as little as 16 inches wide on some airlines.
If you crowd more and more people together, bad things happen.
In August, Paul Hudson's group Flyers Right sent the FAA a petition with over 30,000 signatures supporting larger seats, asking the agency to stop them from getting any smaller and to create minimum seat size standards.
It's a safety concern, particularly with evacuation, that hasn't really been tested for these small spaces. It's a health concern with blood clots. It's a security concern when people are having disagreements and even fights over space.
Hank Scott got frustrated with cramped flights, tiny seats, and the time it took to board.
I simply slide this seat into the lock position.
So he helped invent a different kind of airline seat currently being certified for use. He's named them side slip seats because the middle seat is set back just enough for the aisle seat to slide over it, making more room in the aisle. The staggered layout also allows the seats to be bigger while not taking up additional space on the plane.
You're not up here jockeying for elbow space. You're back here. You've got an extra 2 inches width here. That's still a standard seat, and this is still a standard seat. But both of those passengers have more space as well because they're not elbow to elbow, arm to arm, thigh to thigh.
And the trade association that represents the airline says the seats are safe and the FAA should leave it up to the market to determine how much space customers want. It's worth pointing out that those super discount carriers that offer you the least space, and even the one that doesn't let your seats recline, are among the most profitable in the business. Nora?
There you go, Kris. I do. It's a little tight. It's a little tight sitting that close to everybody.
And nobody likes to be exposed up on the airplane. Nobody does. And when they recline the seat and it cuts off your circulation, it's not good. I disapprove of what's happening in the world.
Suppose you were 6'4".
Yeah, imagine that, yeah.
There's this section, Gil, in a plane.
6'4" people need a private plane.
It's called coach. There's this section that's called
Yes,
coach.
I've been there.
No, but not rarely.
No, I've been there.
Oh, okay.
I've been there. Very nice. Okay. Nora.